Buckle up, everybody, because we are diving deep, deep into the four agreements today.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It is. It's a personal development classic, right?
Absolutely. A classic.
So we're going beyond the surface. We're going to see what makes these agreements tick.
Love that.
We're going to be looking at excerpts from the book itself.
Right from the source.
It's this really fascinating blend of Toltec wisdom, but with these modern insights.
A great combination.
What we're really after today is how these agreements can be applied in your life.
Yes, exactly. The practical side of it.
And what makes them so powerful,
Yeah.
One thing that really got me hooked when I was reading this book
Okay.
was this analogy that Ruiz uses. He says the human mind is like a mito.
A mito, too.
Yeah, like 1,000 people all talking at once.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. We're going to explore how to find clarity in all of that chaos.
That's what we need.
And to help us do that, I've got an expert with me, someone who knows a thing or two about philosophy and personal growth.
Well, I'm excited to be here and dive into this with you.
Awesome. All right, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Ruiz kicks things off with this powerful concept, domestication.
Okay.
He says we're all domesticated by society's rules,
Interesting.
kind of like we train animals.
With rewards and punishments.
Right, exactly. But instead of treats and leashes,
Oh, I see. So it's more like...
it's approval and judgment.
Uh-huh. That makes sense.
It's the societal pressure.
Yeah.
So it's a really striking image because it gets at how deeply ingrained these rules become.
Right, from when we're children.
Yeah.
Think about all those messages we get from such a young age.
Right.
About what it means to be successful, attractive, good person, all that.
We internalize all of that.
Yeah, it becomes this book of law in our minds.
That was calls it, this invisible book of law.
I like that.
And that's where it gets really interesting because Ruiz argues that this book of law, that's what we use to constantly judge ourselves.
I can definitely relate to that.
Right. And he even says we end up abusing ourselves more than anyone else ever could.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
And it's fascinating how he connects this book of law to something much bigger.
Yeah.
The dream of the planet.
The dream of the planet, yeah.
He's talking about billions of personal dreams, all interwoven.
Whoa.
Often creating this collective experience of fear, violence, and injustice.
Okay, so unpack that dream of the planet a little more for us.
Sure.
What might that actually look like in our daily lives?
Well, think about it this way. How much of what you believe about success
Okay.
is actually based on your own values versus what society tells you is important?
That's a good question.
Or how much of your body image is influenced by the media
Oh, yeah.
versus your own sense of self-acceptance?
That's powerful.
These are all pieces of the dream.
Okay, so we're domesticated. We're living in this collective dream that might not even be serving us.
Right, we're kind of buying into a system.
That's a bit of a bleak picture.
Yeah, it can feel that way.
So where's the way out?
That's where the four agreements come in.
Okay.
They're tools for breaking free from this domestication,
I like it.
creating a new, more fulfilling dream for ourselves.
I am ready for some tools.
All right, let's get to it.
The first agreement is a big one. Be impeccable with your word.
Yes, this is a foundational one.
Yeah,
It really highlights the power of language.
words are powerful.
They create our reality.
It's true.
Ruiz even calls the misuse of words black magic
Whoa.
because they can cause real suffering for ourselves and others.
And he gives that really powerful story in the book about the mother who tells her daughter she has an ugly singing voice.
Oh, I remember that one.
Just casual comment.
Yeah, but it can have lasting damage.
It really shows how much weight our words carry.
That's why gossip is another example he brings up. It's like spreading poison with our words.
So how do we become impeccable with our words?
A good question.
Does that mean we can never make a mistake or see the wrong thing?
It's not about perfection, it's about intention.
Okay.
Impeccability is about aligning our words with truth and kindness.
I like that.
It's about becoming mindful of the impact our words have and choosing to speak with integrity.
I love that because it takes the pressure off. It's not about never slipping up.
Right.
It's about the direction we're aiming for.
Exactly. It's a practice, not a destination.
Okay, on to agreement number 2.
Yeah.
Don't take anything personally.
Another big one.
Right.
This agreement is about recognizing that other people's actions are a reflection of their own reality, their own beliefs, their own experiences, not about us.
Okay.
Taking things personally, that's the ultimate form of selfishness, according to Ruiz.
Wow, he doesn't hold back.
He's direct, yeah.
But that's a tough one to put into practice.
It is.
Right, because our egos are wired to make everything about us.
Exactly. But if we're always taking things personally,
Yeah,
we're giving away our power.
it's true. We really are.
He says it makes us easy prey for manipulation.
I see what you mean.
Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get offended, and suddenly your whole day is ruined.
Yeah.
You've let them control your emotions.
But imagine being immune to that.
Wouldn't that be freeing?
Not in a cold, unfeeling way,
No, not at all.
but in a way that preserves your inner peace.
That's the freedom this agreement offers.
I love that.
Imagine not being thrown off balance by insults, gossip, even someone actively trying to bring you down.
All right, now for the third agreement. Don't make assumptions.
This one is so key.
I feel like this is so relevant in our current world.
Absolutely.
With so much information, misinformation flying around.
It's easy to get caught up in assumptions.
We're constantly filling in the gaps.
Right. With our own interpretations.
With assumptions. And that leads to miscommunication.
drama.
Yeah, and ultimately, more suffering.
For everyone involved.
And I'm thinking about a recent argument I had with a friend.
Oh.
We were both assuming things about each other's intentions.
Oh, I see.
And it created this huge conflict out of thin air.
It happens all the time.
It does.
And it ties back to that mitote analogy.
Right.
Our minds are so noisy with these conflicting beliefs.
Yeah.
It's so easy to misinterpret even the simplest things.
So what's the antidote to all this assuming?
The answer is simple. Have the courage to ask questions.
That's it.
It's always better to be clear than to assume.
You know, I like it. Simple, but powerful.
It can make a world of difference.
You can. All right. And that brings us to the final agreement. Always do your best.
Ah, yes, the fourth agreement.
This one, it might seem straightforward, but there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Definitely, it's more nuanced than it seems at first glance.
At first, I thought this was just about working hard.
Sure, we often associate it with that.
But Ruiz emphasizes that it's not about pushing yourself to exhaustion.
Right, it's not about burnout.
Right, your best will vary from day to day.
Exactly.
Some days your best might be running a marathon.
And other days, it might be getting out of bed.
It's true.
The point is to show up fully, whatever that looks like in that moment.
It's about being present,
Yes.
not just going through the motions.
He contrasts this with people who hate their jobs and live for the weekend.
Right.
Their best is never fully engaged because they're focused on the reward.
Rather than the present moment.
The journey, not the destination.
Okay, so we've got our 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
4 powerful tools.
But how do these actually lead to freedom?
That's the big question.
To that heaven on earth that Ruiz talks about?
Well, to understand that, we need to go a little deeper into the Toltec path.
Ooh, deeper.
Yeah, Ruiz introduces this idea of a parasite in our mind.
A parasite.
The judge, the victim, and this whole belief system that feeds on fear.
Oh, wow.
These are the forces that keep us trapped in suffering.
Okay, a parasite in our minds.
A powerful image, right?
That sounds intense. So how do we fight this parasite and reclaim our freedom?
That's what we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready for more.
But first, take a moment to reflect.
What?
What's resonating with you so far?
Yeah, what's standing out for you?
Which of these agreements feels most challenging? Which one feels most liberating?
We'll be back in a flash to continue exploring the Toltec path and how these agreements can help us create a new, more fulfilling dream for ourselves.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. It's going to be good.
Welcome back. You know, as we delve deeper into this Toltec path,
Yeah.
it's fascinating how Ruiz presents these 3 masteries: awareness, transformation, and intent.
Ooh, those sound pretty profound.
They are.
What are these masteries all about?
Well, think of the mastery of awareness like shining a light on your internal landscape. It's about becoming conscious of those ingrained beliefs and patterns.
Right, like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Recognizing how we've been domesticated,
Yeah.
how that book of law is operating in our lives.
So it's not just about knowing the 4 agreements intellectually.
No, not at all.
It's about actually seeing them play out.
In your reactions, your behaviors.
Okay, so it's more like embodiment.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And once we have that awareness,
Yeah.
then we can move into the mastery of transformation.
Okay.
This is where we actively challenge and change those patterns that aren't serving us.
I like that.
It's breaking free from those old agreements
Right.
and choosing new ones.
That are more aligned with who we want to be.
Absolutely.
I like it. And that brings us to the mastery of intent,
Yes.
which sounds a bit more mystical to me.
It can feel that way.
What exactly is intent in this context?
It's like the driving force behind our transformation.
Okay.
It's the energy that fuels our growth.
I see.
It allows us to shift our reality from a state of suffering to a state of love and joy.
So it's not just willpower.
No, it's more than that.
It's like a conscious alignment with a deeper purpose.
Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful. I love that.
And Ruiz beautifully connects this mastery of intent to the mastery of love.
Oh, wow.
He suggests that love is the most powerful transformative force. When we operate from a place of love rather than fear, everything seems to flow more effortlessly.
I can totally see that.
Can you?
Yeah, when I think about times in my life when I've been motivated by fear, it always feels constricted, like I'm swimming upstream.
I know that feeling.
But when I'm acting from a place of love, there's a sense of ease and expansion.
It's a completely different energy.
It really is, and this is where the idea of forgiveness becomes so important, right?
Absolutely.
It's essential for healing those deep wounds.
That keep us tethered to those old fear-based agreements.
Okay, let's talk about forgiveness because I know that can be a really tricky concept.
For many people, it is.
How do we forgive someone who's hurt us deeply, especially if they haven't even apologized?
That's a great question. It's important to remember that forgiveness isn't about condoning someone's actions
Okay,
or letting them off the hook.
right.
It's not about them at all.
It's about us.
It's about freeing ourselves from the resentment and bitterness that we're carrying.
Okay, so it's more about our own well-being
Absolutely.
than about the other person.
Exactly.
That's a helpful perspective.
Because holding on to anger and blame,
Yeah.
it keeps us trapped in the past, reliving that pain over and over.
So we're holding on to that poison.
Yes. And forgiveness is about releasing that poison.
That's a great analogy.
It's choosing to let go of those negative emotions.
But even if we understand that intellectually,
Yeah.
it can be really hard to actually feel that forgiveness in our hearts.
I agree. It's a process.
So how do we get there?
Ruiz suggests we can cultivate forgiveness by practicing compassion
Yeah.
for ourselves and for the person who has hurt us.
Okay, both sides.
Remembering that everyone is operating from their own level of awareness.
Right, their own
It's their own woundedness. Often the people who hurt us the most
Yeah,
are the ones who are hurting themselves the most.
that is such a powerful perspective shift.
It can be.
When we can see things from that wider lens,
Yeah.
it does become easier to let go of that judgment and blame.
Absolutely. And forgiveness, it doesn't have to happen overnight.
Okay, that's good.
It's a process. It might start with a tiny shift in perspective.
I like that you're emphasizing that it's a process.
It's important to remember
It takes the pressure off.
to feel a certain way immediately.
It's more about a willingness
Yes.
to move in the direction of forgiveness.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. I love that.
And as we cultivate forgiveness,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and others,
Mhm.
we start to clear out that emotional baggage, those old wounds
Right.
that keep us tethered to the dream of the planet.
So we're creating space.
For love and joy to flow more freely in our lives.
We're working with these masteries,
Mhm.
cultivating awareness, practicing transformation, aligning our intent with love, and letting go of old hurts through forgiveness.
It's a powerful combination.
All of this is pointing towards creating a new dream for ourselves, right?
Exactly. A new dream.
What does that new dream actually look and feel like?
Well, it's going to look different for everyone. But the core elements are universal.
What are those core elements?
It's a dream where we feel free to be our authentic selves without that fear of judgment or rejection,
I love that.
where our relationships are based on love, respect, clear communication, and where we experience a deep sense of peace, joy, and purpose.
That sounds incredible.
It can be.
But is it really possible to create that kind of heaven on earth?
I understand that question.
Especially with all the challenges, all the suffering we see in the world around us.
Ruiz doesn't shy away from the reality of suffering.
Okay.
He acknowledges that the world can be a difficult place.
Right. He's not naive.
But he also emphasizes that we have a choice in how we respond to those difficulties.
So it's not about denying the reality of suffering.
No.
It's about choosing to focus our energy on creating something better for ourselves and for the collective.
You got it.
That's so empowering.
It is.
We're not just victims of circumstance.
We have the power to choose our response.
That's where those three masteries come in.
They're essential tools.
The more aware we are of our own patterns, the more skilled we become at transforming them.
The better equipped we are.
To navigate challenges
Yeah.
with grace with resilience.
And the more we align our intent with love,
Yeah.
the more we contribute to a more loving and harmonious world.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things.
No, it starts with us.
Hoping that things will magically change.
It's recognizing our own power,
To create that change.
starting with our inner world.
This is powerful stuff.
It is. It's a reminder that we're not just passive recipients.
Of the dream of the planet?
We are active participants.
We are co-creators of our own reality.
And contributors to the collective dream.
And as we step into that power,
As we choose to live with more awareness, love, authenticity,
what happens?
we become beacons of light,
I love that.
radiating a new dream into the world,
One heart at a time.
one heart at a time.
We're not just transforming our own lives.
No, it goes beyond that.
We're contributing to a larger transformation.
A shift in the collective consciousness.
That's the real magic of Ruiz's teachings.
It is.
They offer this path to personal freedom,
Ripples outward.
inspiring a collective awakening.
To love, compassion, our interconnectedness.
This is all so powerful. I think we need a moment to let all this sink in.
Take a breath.
Before we dive into the practical tools
A how-to.
that Ruiz offers for actually embodying these agreements in our daily lives.
Because it's one thing to understand them.
Right.
It's another to live them.
Exactly. So take a moment.
Reflect.
What's resonating most deeply with you right now?
What feels particularly relevant to your own life, your own experiences,
We'll be back in a flash to continue exploring the Toltec path.
and how you can start putting these agreements into practice.
We're back, and I am ready to get into the nitty-gritty, the how-to,
Yeah, the practical application.
of how we actually live these agreements.
That's the key.
Because I don't know about you,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes it feels like one thing to understand them intellectually, and a whole other thing to make them a reality in my daily life.
Yeah, bridging that gap.
Right, so let's talk tools.
Okay.
What are some techniques that can help us move from understanding these agreements to actually living them?
One of the most impactful techniques is the Toltec recapitulation.
Recapitulation.
It sounds a little intense, but bear with me.
It does sound kind of intimidating.
It is. It's essentially a practice of reviewing our past,
Okay.
but not in a way that gets us stuck in regret or self-criticism.
Right.
It's about going back to those experiences where we made agreements that are no longer serving us
I see.
and reclaiming the energy we invested in those old patterns.
So instead of dwelling in the past, it's more about consciously choosing to release the emotional charge that we're still carrying.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so it's like clearing out emotional
You
baggage
did it like that, yeah.
that's been weighing us down.
Those old wounds that keep us repeating the same patterns.
Okay, that makes sense, but what does this process actually look like? Do we just sit down and just try to remember all the times we've messed up?
It's a bit more structured than that.
Okay.
Ruiz suggests starting with our earliest memories
Okay.
and working our way forward through our lives.
Hmm.
Systematically reviewing our interactions with the significant people in our lives.
Okay.
It's like taking inventory of the agreements we've made, both
Mhm.
conscious and unconscious.
Oh.
And as we revisit each experience, we have the opportunity to choose to release the energy we've invested
Interesting.
in those agreements that are no longer aligned with the people we want to be.
So we're rewriting the script of our past.
You could say that, yeah.
Releasing the old story, creating space for a new one.
And as we do that, we free up so much energy that was tied up in those old patterns.
It may sound.
Energy that can then be channeled into creating a more fulfilling and authentic present and future.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Are there other techniques that Ruiz recommends
Oh, absolutely.
for embodying these agreements in our daily life?
One that he emphasizes over and over again is the practice of cultivating stillness and silence.
Stillness and silence.
Yeah, even just a few minutes each day.
Okay.
Spent in meditation. Simply observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
So it's about creating space
Yes.
between our thoughts and our reactions,
Exactly.
allowing ourselves to choose a more conscious response.
Rather than just reacting habitually.
It's like we're training our minds to pause
Yes.
before reacting, giving ourselves the opportunity to choose a response that's more aligned with who we want to be.
And that pause, that moment of choice,
Yeah,
that's where the real magic happens.
it's true.
That's where we move from being controlled by our past conditioning to becoming conscious creators of our present experience.
You know, it's funny, we were talking about the methode earlier.
Yeah.
That feeling of having 1,000 voices in our heads.
1,000 people talking at once.
Stillness seems like the perfect antidote to all that chaos.
It is. It's like stepping out of the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Right.
and finding that center of peace and clarity within.
So we've got this powerful toolkit,
We do.
the recapitulation for clearing out the old baggage,
Mm-hmm.
rewriting our past,
Yes.
the practice of stillness for creating space between our thoughts and our reactions, and of course the four agreements themselves
Our guiding principles.
as a guide for making choices that are aligned with love, freedom, authenticity.
A roadmap for living.
And it's not about being perfect.
Not at all.
It's about progress, not perfection.
We'll stumble along the way.
Because there will be times when we fall back into old patterns, when we break agreements, when we get caught up in the drama.
It's all part of the process.
It's easy to beat ourselves up when we slip up.
Oh, I know.
But that just keeps us stuck in that cycle of self-judgment.
It does, so be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. I love that.
Remember that every moment is a new opportunity.
To begin again.
It's so hopeful. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the four agreements, what's the one message you'd like to leave our listeners with?
You are not your agreements.
Ooh, I like that.
You are the awareness behind those agreements. The one who has the power to choose.
Yes.
And in every moment, you have the opportunity to choose again, to choose love, to choose forgiveness, to choose freedom.
Beautifully said. And if you've been touched by this deep dive, I really encourage you to explore Ruiz's work further.
Dive in.
Start experimenting with these agreements in your own life.
See what happens.
See what happens when you choose to be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
When you refuse to take things personally, when you stop making assumptions, when you always do your best, you might just be amazed by the transformation that unfolds.
It's a journey.
It is.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Towards freedom and wholeness.
And remember, you're not alone on this path.
We're all in this together.
There are countless others who are waking up to these truths, choosing to create a more loving and harmonious world for themselves and for the collective.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the four agreements.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving.